and, you know, specialists. And I'd also say to, you know, all the keyboard warriors out there who've got an opinion on the matter, that was a situation I was in, and those are the actions I took, and, you know, I in no way regret them, and I have no blemishes upon my conscience.
Your mum was reported to have said it was stupid. Do you agree with her?
I think my mum's got her own opinions and she's totally entitled to those. And who am I to contradict my mother on TV?
Quite right. Ben Innes speaking to Sophie Long. The headlines on BBC News. The Business Secretary tries to reassure steel workers who are at risk of losing their jobs in Port Talbot, but he's under pressure over the government's handling of the crisis. A Luton delivery driver is convicted of an Islamic State-linked plot to kill an American airman in Britain. On the up, the new national living wage means more than 1 million people get a pay rise from today. And an update on the market numbers for you. Here's how London and Frankfurt ended the trading day. Negative territory there, faring better in the United States. This is how the Dow and the Nasdaq are getting on. Special service has been held today in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk to remember the victims of the deadly Zeppelin raid on the town exactly 100 years ago. 7 people were killed when their homes were hit by bombs dropped from the German airship. Today's service was attended by some of the relatives of those who died during the First World War. Kevin Birch reports.
The cemetery chapel in Bury, an intimate setting for what was an intimate service. In their minds, winding the clock back to 1916 and what the Reverend Mark Hunt called a terrible reality. Today there's archive footage to illustrate the scale of the devastation. Bombs intended, it's thought, for a military base and an engineering plant fell instead on homes. Colin Jameson lost 3 relatives, grandmother Annie, who was 29, and 2 of her children. James, who was 5, Catherine, who was 3. They'd just been put to bed at the time. Colin's mother Evelyn, who was 6, survived, pulled from the rubble, temporarily blinded.
I think it's important to remember, you know, how futile war is and the sort of destruction it can bring and the heartache it can bring. And of course, it's the innocents that suffer. And I think Jenna's doing projects at school now for First World War. And I think it's important she understands what goes on.
Annie's home, number 75 Mill Road, was hit along with number 74. Martin Taylor, who's a tour guide in Bury and written books on local history, says the attack had a profound effect.
The bombings of the Zeppelins brought home to our own doorstep the death and destruction that the troops were facing on the Western Front.
Because until that point it had felt a very distant conflict.
Indeed.
Bury wasn't the only target. Lives were lost too in Sudbury and towns in Essex. And at today's service, after poetry and prayers inside, time to pause outside to remember all those who endured the terror of that night. This is another nice touch, which at the moment the families don't know anything about. It's a rose called Remember, which has been planted here right by the entrance to the cemetery, so as people come in they can look and realise what happened 100 years ago.
From those whose love...
It was nice to remember my family that, of course, I never met. I never had a grandmother, so it was lovely to remember those.
One of the readings today was Count Your Blessings, never more poignant, never more fitting. Kevin Birch, BBC News.
Autism affects nearly 1 million people in Britain, but even though most of us have heard of the condition, it appears few of us really understand it. Our disability news correspondent Nikki Fox has been to meet the young star of a campaign that's trying to raise awareness of the condition.
Alex, I'm not naughty. I'm autistic.
10-year-old Alex is in the voiceover booth, adding the finishing touches to a film he stars in.
Ready?
Imagine our last shot is the one of you having your meltdown.
It's all about understanding autism and who best to play the part.
I'm autistic and I just get too much information.
For him, the experiences in this film are very real.
One of the main things is people just brushing past you. And I know that seems very silly and I know that seems busy crowd, busy thing, people rush past you. But that is hard to cope with. But something tiny like that will affect my day for a very long time. Take my hand.
During the filming, there's one character who walks and gives a specific look. It's a mixture of contempt and disgust, and you're not good parents, and it's devastating when you get it. It upsets us quite a lot, really.
It's shocking that 50% of autistic people and families say that they feel they are sometimes or often unable to leave the house, not because of a lack of support, but because of the way the public respond to them when they're out. We want people to take time, make space, and thirdly, just imagine what it's like to feel overloaded and what you would need in that situation.
One city with ambitions to make life easier for people like Alex and his family is Liverpool. Here, at one of its largest museums, changes have been made to improve the experiences of people with autism.
You'd like to give him a little stroke?
Alex and his brother Sam are learning all about starfish in this nice quiet space, and that's what's different. Normally this area would be chaotic, but it's not. It's quiet, and that suits many people with autism.
Amazing. I mean, it's not crowded. It was extraordinary. It's taken away the bad things and left the good things. Hopefully that's elaborated it for you.
You have elaborated that perfectly. You elaborate a lot better than most people.
Good.
The film will be shown in cinemas across the UK, and the message is simple. The smallest of changes for someone like Alex and his family will make a world of difference.
When people watch the film, I really hope that it will make people aware of autism, as I've said, and it will make autism have a lot of respect, and that's very important, as much as anything.
Nikki Fox, BBC News.
Today, Apple is the most valuable company on earth. It all started 40 years ago today with 3 men in an apartment in Mountain View, California. We all know the story of the late Steve Jobs, and some can name Steve Wozniak as well. But not many know about the third co-founder of Apple. Our North America technology reporter Dave Lee has been to meet him.
Jobs had this focus. Once he got an idea in his head, that was it. And you never wanted to be between him and where he wanted to go. You'd wind up with footprints on your forehead. This is the contract that I personally typed up. He regarded me as something of a minor mentor because I was somewhat more diplomatic than he was. There was a problem he was having at that time with Steve Wozniak. I said, bring him over to the house, we'll sit down, we'll chat. And it took me 45 minutes, certainly less than an hour, to get him to understand, no, you can't do it that way for a business enterprise. Okay, fine. He bought into it, he understood. And at that moment in time, Steve Jobs says, we are going to form a company. 12 days later, I went down to the registrar's office and had my name taken off the contract. Jobs and Wozniak didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. I had a house, and a bank account, and a car, and I was reachable. Some months later, I get this letter in the mail with a check for $1,500. I believe it was $1,500. And the letter says, all you got to do is sign away every possible interest you could have in the Apple Computer Company, and the check is yours. Well, I figured that I had already done that. As far as I was concerned, it was found money, you know, so I went ahead and I signed.
I think people will watch this and they'll say, surely, as Ron's about to go to sleep, he must often think of what could have been with Apple. I mean, do you?
I knew exactly what would have been if I'd have stayed with the company. I would have wound up heading a very large documentation department at the back of the building, shuffling papers for the next 20 years of my life, and that was not the future that I saw for myself.
Some of the biggest names in rock music have paid tribute to David Bowie at a concert in New York, his adopted home. Blondie, REM's Michael Stipe and Cyndi Lauper were among those taking part. Our New York correspondent Nick Bryant was watching.
America has no more prestigious stage than Carnegie Hall. And last night, the fans of David Bowie transformed it into something nearing a shrine.
And I'm really bummed about his death, but I'm so incredibly happy that I got a ticket, and I'm going to go see the show, and it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be a special night. I think I'm going to cry.
I know he's watching from wherever he is, and so impressed, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do.
In the very hall where the singer made his New York debut back in 1972, stars like Cyndi Lauper performed a musical memorial. But the irony of this tribute concert, it was planned months before his death. The organisers hoped originally that he'd appear himself. So in his much-missed absence, friends like Debbie Harry performed his legendary hits.
What are your lasting memories of David Bowie?
Lasting memories. Oh, I can't tell those. I'm just kidding. Lasting memories, you know, just knowing him, his sense of humor, and the wonderful songs that he wrote.
One of those is Heroes, the anthem he performed at a 9/11 memorial concert in New York and dedicated to local firefighters. They could have packed this famous auditorium many times over. Such was the demand for tickets that there'll be an encore performance later on.
David Bowie lived in Manhattan for 20 years and was proud to call himself a New Yorker. And tonight, this city returned that love.
It's a place that moves on quickly, but David Bowie has left an enduring mark. Nick Bryant, BBC News, New York.
Let's take a look at the weather forecast with Alex.
Hello. Large contrasts with the weather this Friday. A wet and windy one across the northwest of the UK. Plenty of sunshine across East Anglia and the southeast. We will continue with big contrasts through the weekend. It's a bit of a messy picture, but overall it is going to get a bit warmer. There'll be some sunshine. There'll also be some rain around. Now, this is the rainfall picture at the moment. The wet weather you can see on the radar. It's been affecting Western Scotland, Northern Ireland for much of the day, slowly slipping into parts of Northern England and Wales. It's a weather front which continues to track southwards.